To trace the origins of the BRICS acronym back then, South Africa wasn't a part of it, you've got to go back to November 2001, specifically to this paper. And here's what the author wrote. Over the next 10 years, the weight of the BRICS and especially China in world GDP will grow. In line with those prospects, world policymaking forums should be reorganized, and in particular, the G7 should be adjusted to incorporate BRIC representatives. End of quote. I don't think when Jim O'Neill, back then he was a managing director in Goldman Sachs Investment Management Unit, I don't think when he wrote this 21-page paper that he had any idea just how exponential that growth was going to be. You see, by the end of the year 2000, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, they made up just 8% of the entire planet's GDP. Fast forward to 2021, and those four economies, plus South Africa, which joined the group in 2011, they accounted for 26% of global economic output. China alone accounted for over 70% of BRICS GDP in 2021. So the acronym may have taken shape in 2001, but it was only 8 years later the four countries sat down and asked themselves that very simple question. What exactly are we? Well, they decided to make things official at the first BRICS summit in Russia on the 16th of June in 2009. So now you have this group. What do you do with it? Remember that 20-page paper? Let's get back to it. At the time, Jim O'Neill argued that the current G7 needs to be upgraded and room made for the BRICS to allow for more effective global policy making. And of the 5 countries that make up that bloc today, only Russia had a seat at the G7 between 1998 and 2014. So that seat at the table, at least for the collective, never really materialized. Not that it stopped the bloc from making its views on specific global issues well known. In 2009, the bloc argued that emerging and developing economies must have greater representation in international financial institutions like the IMF and the World Bank, something that, rather ironically, we're still arguing about in 2023. Now, while there has been very little progress on that front, the bloc did set up the new Development Bank in 2014. By end 2022, that institution had lent over $30 billion to cover the cost of developing just about everything from metro lines in China to water projects in India. Now, one of 2023's meta-narratives, the meta-stories, if you will, is tied to the sheer strength of and our continuing reliance on the US dollar. And even the BRICS are not immune to that. By end 2022, just over 60% of the NDB's portfolio was denominated in that currency. In the 2001 paper, Jim pointed out that a strong dollar then could be a big challenge for emerging economies. And given today's concerns around debt service and inflation problems, the argument still stands. Right now, there are no immediate plans to roll out a separate BRICS currency as a hedge against dollar strength. The development of anything alternative, in fact, is more of a medium to long-term ambition, according to the CFO of the new development bank. Nonetheless, bloc members are working on trading a lot more in their own currencies, more rupees and rubles, a lot less of the greenback. As the BRICS get into their teen years, with over 24 countries now interested in joining the bloc, what should we make of this group that's home to 4 out of every 10 humans on the planet? And more importantly, where does it collectively see its place in a complicated world? The answers to that question will emerge from the Head of State Summit in Johannesburg.